So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday I was the last male candidate, but today I'm the first one. What a great echoing. Well, my teaching plan today will be divided into two parts, basically, with my first part being my own interpretation of this text itself. Well, as you can see, this text is very simple. Don't fear artificial intelligence. Therefore, the purpose of this text is to ease people's anxiety that we shouldn't fear artificial intelligence. Therefore, its kind of style is expository writing. Well, the main content of this text could be divided into basically four parts. Part one is first paragraph. That is two great thinkers concerned over the threat of artificial intelligence. And part two goes from paragraph number 2 to paragraph number 4, people's kind of concern over this kind of artificial intelligence. Part 4 is paragraph number 5 to paragraph number 8. In this text, the author raises a lot of kind of strategy for us to make sure that AI is safe. For example, number 1, biotechnology has indeed helped us do a lot of things. We have advanced a little bit. A huge process in medical treatment. Number 2, ethical guidelines. Number 3, effort of university and companies. They're all endeavoring to help us do a better job in controlling the threat of artificial intelligence. And number 4, with the help of governance and also social institutions, we have no reason to doubt that AI is posing a great threat to human world. The very last part is paragraph number 9, which raises or echoes the title, Don't Fear Artificial Intelligence, because it is helping us to grow in every aspect, for example, medical treatment and also education. I think by telling this, we have also this kind of text analysis very clearly. That is problem, solution, and conclusion. Well, this is my interpretation of this text itself. Then comes to my very important part, that is my teaching plan. All right, my target students usually are non-English major students whose English is relatively okay. Years ago, we emphasized too much on learning a foreign language, but I think now we emphasize another kind of a new ideal, that is to use English to learn other kind of knowledge. So this is my guidelines embedded in my teaching. Well, usually for this kind of integrated course, my class will run 4 periods. Well, period number 1, which is my teaching step 1. That is students' presentation. Let me tell you this. Before my class officially kicks off, I would always usually give students a kind of working list on which I have several tasks to be assigned. For example, group 1, your job is to do some vocabulary checking. In this text, we do have some very good vocabulary. For example, let me see. In paragraph number 2, we have a new word, spectre, which means some horrible things. And also in paragraph number 7, we have a word encrypted. Its verb is encrypt. And also in paragraph number 9, we have so many good words to be used. For example, the phrase in a myriad of, which means numerous. And also we have pivotal, which means important. I'm hoping that students could also work out all these words by themselves by referring to English dictionaries or English to Chinese dictionaries to have a full taste of all those new words, which could hinder the comprehension of this text itself. Therefore, with the effort of the students, I think Group 1 has done the job successfully. And Group 2, your job is to do the text analysis, like what I've told you just now. This kind of strategy is very clear. It is problem, solution, and also conclusion. By the way, in paragraph number 4, in order to translate very naturally to the strategies, the writer uses this kind of sentence. For example, in exponentially better information about what is wrong with the world, another development aided by AI. I think this is a kind of transitional sentence used by this author to move naturally into the strategy. Therefore, I'm hoping that students could also find out this kind of very important strategy. All right, this is my class, period number 1. Let's come to period number 2. This is the second class, which also runs 45 minutes. In this class, I would arrange for my students some time for them to question me, but also, this is my time. I would like to in person, tell them some background information or some strategy analysis. And also, I would like to raise my doubts about their previous lesson. This is what I always do in this lesson. And in period number 3, that is very important. The name of period number 3 is to let our thoughts fly, which means critical thinking. Well, specifically for this article, what kind of critical thinking could be aroused? Number 1, I would give a title, a big one, that is Humanity versus AI. But this is not enough. I have to give students a quotation from what Charles Dickens writes in his novel, A Tale of Two Cities. The very first sentence, that is, it is the best of times, it is the worst of times. It is the age of wisdom, it is the age of foolishness. Then, with the introduction of AI, what kind of age are we exactly now in? Therefore, the students could be grouped into 2. With the pro side, with the con side, you're going to have to debate killing each other with your reasonable reasons. So this is how I do this kind of let your thoughts fly around. With the quotation coming from Charles Dickens, I'm hoping that students know the guidance, know what I'm intending, I'm wanting them to do. Because with my help and their cooperation and also their discussion, I'm hoping that this kind of class would be successful. All right. Having said this much, though, I think the most important for this text itself, for example, of course, it is not language, because language could also be worked about students themselves. That is how I designed this lesson. This is kind of student-centered class. It is not dominated by me, which also is guided by my teaching philosophy. That is, we're not teaching for the sake of teaching. We're not learning for the sake of learning. We teach to learn. We learn to teach. This is how we always organize such kind of a seemingly difficult, a little bit scientific passage, which students may find a little bit elusive to understand and quite unfathomable for them to taste. Well, I think the text itself is very simple, appear very simple in its language, but the topic, like what I did in this Let Our Thoughts Fly, is very thought-provoking. So Charles Dickens, and also I would like to give another quotation from Bacon. Bacon once said, "Study serves for delight, for ornament, and for ability." However, I want to ask students this question. Does AI also serve for delight, for ornament, and for ability? What is your opinion on this? So, with the 2 quotations, one from Charles Dickens, the other from Francis Bacon, then how would you ponder over this kind of issue from 2 different kinds of perspectives? I think this is how we do critical thinking ability. By the way, I think college English teachers emphasize too much attention on critical thinking ability sometimes. We ignore the very essential task of language class teaching. That is, we have to focus first on language proficiency, kind of improvement. Then we come to critical thinking. Without language proficiency drill, critical thinking would be kind of empty words, which is to say, we are putting the carriage before a horse. I think this is what we all need to be paying attention to. Then in the next period, I think it is the assignment task. My assignment is a little bit from usually some ordinary teachers. Teachers would always assign students like you have to write a passage, you have to write something in how many words. Yes, that's okay, because with enough input, you have to do enough output. But my question number 1 is to first, students themselves, would you please first draw a tree with a lot of leaves on it and try to recall your memory since when you were influenced by AI. How did AI come to your life? Would you please put some time markers on each of the leaves to show your process of approaching AI? I think by doing this is very unique. Students, while they are learning English, they are not only learning English, they're also expanding their horizons by looking at texts like this one. And number 2, of course, it is not a writing, it is kind of public speaking. I wanted students to further do some public speaking over humanity and AI in their recording voices. I always want my students to record their voices to me, to let me hear their voices, because students may appear good here, but they may not sound very natural in their recordings. So these are the two usually homework that I assign to my students. I think with all my ideas being introduced to you, I think this could be a good and smooth class. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 6. Here comes the questions for you.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, would you please quiet down? Thank you.
I see contradiction in your presentation. First, you said language is not so difficult in this text, and so the students can solve them by themselves. So it is not very important. And then you said language is very important because anyhow it is a language course, language classroom. So it should be put first. So how can you explain this contradiction?
Well, thank you for this question, Professor. At the very first hearing of my explanation, you maybe think it's kind of paradoxical. However, notice what I have told you. It is not a teacher-dominant class. It's student-centered. By doing this, I'm actually wanting students to exercise this kind of teaching guideline, which is called skip the class. They do this kind of, some things they could do outside the classroom, so I don't have to waste my time in my precious 45 minutes. Then why
how can you be sure that the students solve this problem?
Okay, how can I be sure that students have solved this problem? And period number 1, students' presentation has proved whether or not they did this well. I think this is my way to check. And language itself is very important because essentially it is a language course. All right, so I think it is not paradoxical. Instead, it echoes each other. I don't think it's
paradoxical. I think it is contradictory. So they are two different things.
Well, it depends on how you look at this problem. On the one hand, you're facilitating
I look
students.
at it as contradictory, not paradoxical.
Yeah, okay.
It's different.
On the one hand, the students are facilitating their autonomous learning. On the other, the teacher is trying to guide them to learn.
Let's come to be specific. Now look at paragraph 2, the second sentence. Can you read it aloud so everybody knows what it is?
The second from humanity?
Yes, humanity, yes.
Humanity was introduced to existential risk when I was a child sitting under my desk during the civil defense drills of the 1950s.
Yes. How can you check that the students understand this sentence and they have solve all the problems in this sentence? And first you have to locate what are the problems, probable problems in this.
Okay, how do I make sure the students have understood totally this sentence, all right? First of all, when I looked at this sentence, to tell you the truth, I read it twice. Because this sentence is written in a kind of passive voice way. Usually, Chinese students wouldn't put this sentence into this way. Well, in order to check whether students have understood this sentence or not, I would like to first ask some of the students to paraphrase it and then directly translate into Chinese.
Okay, I will see whether you understand it or not. So paraphrase it for me.
Okay.
Just the first half.
Humanity
was introduced to existential risk. Just stop here.
Oh, okay.
Just this.
This sentence simply means a kind of risky risk now appeared in the human world. That is when I was a child sitting there watching this kind of thing happening. The threat came to our mind, came to the world.
So in this way, I can see that you do not have a proper understanding of this sentence.
Okay.
So how can you be sure that your students can solve this problem?
Well, if I really have to recheck, double-check this sentence, I would first spare a lot of time preparing for this lesson because you know this time was very short just now. If it is an authentic class, I would of course do a general work about every sentence of this work, and then yes, like what I said to you, I will ask students to translate first.
Okay, the second question is about paragraph 8.
Paragraph number 8. Ultimately.
Yeah, the first sentence. This term, our human governance and social institutions. What do they mean?
Ultimately, the most important priority is to work on our human governance and social institutions. Okay, thank you. I think this because you see, I circled these two words out when I was preparing for this.
But it does not mean you understand it.
Okay. Human governance, I think, because AI is designed by people, is used by people, is contrived by people, I'm not thinking that AI could one day surpass humanity. Therefore, we have kind of range to limit it. So this is human governance. And social institutions may echo back to paragraph number 6, that is ethical guidelines. While we're contriving this kind of AI, what kind of social norms are we abiding by? Are we surpassing it? Are we surpassing the limit of human? I think this means what I said.
Okay, you can be dismissed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 6.